Hey folks, this is Lens, also known as Audible Agent, and today I wanted to talk to you about the differences between the Medeco M3 Original and the Medeco M3 Cam Lock. You might assume these are basically the same, only difference being the form factor, but in fact that is not the case. There are subtle differences between these two, actually major differences I would say, that dictate how you would pick each of these, and the picking strategy is going to be different for each. So let's talk a little bit first about the original Medeco M3. This uses key pin and driver with the spring on top. The key pin is sort of what you would know or expect from a Medeco, which is that the key pin needs to be rotated to the right orientation, and it also needs to be lifted to the right height in order to set each pin. The key pins on these have a vertical groove that runs the whole length of the key pin, and that allows the sidebar to engage into it. What makes that nice is that on this lock, you can use counterclockwise tension, you can attempt to set the rotation, and you can confirm whether or not you have that rotation set correctly by engaging a little check pin or plunger that will cause the sidebar to engage with those key pins. And if it engages correctly, the core will rotate ever so subtly, and that is your confirmation that you've set the rotation correctly. And then from there, you can go ahead and pick it like it was a normal pin tumbler lock. So these are kind of a fun lock to pick because you get very definite feedback as to whether or not you're on the right track. The Medeco M3 Cam Lock also has the same check pin or plunger, but what's different is the key pins. The key pins actually have a little hole in the side, not a vertical slot, and that hole is at a specific height on the key pin. And so that means that you have to both set the key pin height and rotation correctly before the check pin will allow the sidebar to engage with it. So that changes your strategy drastically. Let's do a little close-up of these just so you can see what these look like. You can see on the M3 Medeco Original, you've got the logo there. Same thing on the Medeco Cam Lock. You have a little M3 logo right there. If we take a look at the keys, you'll see that the one on the left, the Medeco M3 Original, is a 6-pin lock. The one on the right is a 3-pin lock. If you notice this little notch right about there and right about there, that is the part of the key that engages the check pin or the plunger to allow the sidebar and core to rotate. So it does have those things in common. Let's take a look at the pins. And let me rotate this one if I can. Maybe I'll just grab it. And let's see if we can get this to focus. Okay, this is the M3 key pin, and you'll see that vertical slot that runs the whole length of the key pin. Let's grab the one from the M3 Cam Lock. And you see that little hole on the side? That's very different. So the height has to be set correctly on these before that sidebar is going to engage. And that is the fundamental difference between the M3 Original and the M3 Cam Lock. So one other thing to call out about the differences between these two is that the Cam Lock is driverless. So this driver pin here is from the Medeco M3 Original. This one is the only thing in the stack other than the spring, which is not included here, in the chambers. So you just have this one key pin. And if that looks familiar, that might be because you're familiar with other Medeco cam locks. such as the Medeco Duracam. Now this is a dimple version, but it works the same way. It's driverless. It has that same style of key pin where there's a little hole for a dowel to fit into from the sidebar, and doesn't have a slot that runs the whole length. And so the strategy for this is very different than the original M3. I think that's the main point I want to get across here, is that if you buy an M3 cam lock expecting to be able to pick it using the strategies of the Medeco M3 original, you're not going to have any success. In fact, I would say your strategy should be way more similar to how you would pick the Duracam. And that's just something I've learned recently, and it was not something I was aware of, and I wanted to share it with everybody else so that you didn't waste your money trying to pick this cheaper and smaller M3 cam lock thinking it worked the exact same way as this guy. So I hope that was informational. I hope that you learned something new from this, and I would still say, since these are so cheap, it might be worth getting one and playing with it. It's still going to be a challenge to pick it, I'm sure. But yeah, just be aware of the differences. And if you are looking for tips or strategies on picking this M3 original, I have a video on that. I'll share that in the description, and I hope everybody has a good day. Thanks.